2016 saw the introduction of many new UFC up-and-comers, but 2017 promises to be even better. Here's a look at the top 10 rising UFC stars for 2017. Number 10. Marc Diakiese. Fans of mixed martial arts in England have plenty to look forward to with Marc Diakiese. The man born in Doncaster had a shaky opening round in his octagon debut against Łukasz Sajewski at UFC 204. Bone Crusher responded by pummeling Sajewski in the second frame to earn a TKO victory. The second UFC bout for Diakiese wasn't flawless either, but he was able to keep his unbeaten record safe. Bone Crusher overcame a cut over his left eye to best Frankie Perez at UFC Fight Night 102. Having passed two tough tests, things will only get harder for the up-and-coming lightweight. Diakiese may want to consider more training time before stepping back into the octagon after fighting twice in just 2 months. Number 9. Josh Emmett. Team Alpha Male's Josh Emmett had a successful UFC debut, edging John Tuck back in May. Unfortunately for him, he suffered a compound fracture in his finger. Emmett returned to the UFC on Fox 22 against Scott Holtzman and showed even more heart and determination. Despite failing to score on multiple takedown attempts in the first round, Emmett swung for the fences in the second stanza. The final round made all the difference as he rocked Holtzman with a knee and scored a few takedowns to get the unanimous decision. Much like Diakiese, Emmett has proven in his first two fights in the UFC that he can rise above tough scenarios. Number 8. Justin Leday. Justin Leday's UFC debut was a one-sided affair. El Blanco picked apart Chase Sherman for the duration of the fight. His ability to keep the pace going for all 3 rounds was crucial, especially since he's a heavyweight. While Leday showcased crisp boxing in his debut, his next fight showed off his submission skills. He exchanged strikes with Mark Goldbeer early, but Leday was getting the cleaner shots in. El Blanco took his opponent down. Goldbeer tried scrambling out, but Leday took his back and locked in a rear naked choke for the first round submission victory. The UFC heavyweight division has been stale as of late, but expect Leday to bring some much-needed excitement to the division. Number 7. Brandon Moreno. The professional UFC debut of flyweight Brandon Moreno turned a lot of heads. He snapped the 4-fight winning streak of Louis Smolka with a submission win. The Assassin Baby was a plus 450 underdog going into the fight. Things weren't as easy for Moreno in his second appearance. Ryan Benoit wobbled and even dropped the Assassin Baby at their Tilt, the Ultimate Fighter 24 finale. Moreno survived and pushed the pace enough to take the split decision win. With a stunning finish over Smolka and a gutsy performance against Benoit, Moreno went from an underdog to a prospect in a division dominated by Demetrius Johnson. He'll need to work on some things, but don't be surprised if Moreno eventually cracks the top 10 in the 125-pound rank. Number 6. Lando Vannata. If you're an up-and-coming lightweight who wants to make a name for yourself, just do what Lando Vannata did. He almost finished number 2 ranked lightweight Tony Ferguson in his UFC debut and knocked out John Makdessi with a spinning wheel kick. Sounds easy, right? For starters, Groovy stepped in as a late replacement at UFC Fight Night 91 to meet El Cucuy. Fans and experts expected Ferguson to run through the unknown Vannata, but it didn't turn out that way. Vannata nailed Ferguson with a spinning back fist and then dropped him with a jab. He dropped his opponent again with a head kick and was on the cusp of an upset. But Ferguson survived, found his own groove, and submitted Vannata in the second round. With a performance like that, the UFC booked Vannata with the crafty veteran Makdessi. Vannata flattened his opponent with a wheel kick for an easy Knockout of the Year candidate nomination. Number 5. Alexa Grasso. The future looks bright for women's strawweight Alexa Grasso. Grasso competed for local promotions in Mexico before making the jump to Invicta FC, where she won 3 straight bouts and kept her unbeaten record intact. She made her octagon debut against Heather Jo Clark at UFC Fight Night 98. Hurricane was no match for Grasso. Despite being known for her stand-up, Grasso controlled the fight wherever it went. She had solid takedown defense and was tough to deal with in the clinch. Alexa may have hit a bump in the road with a decision loss against Felice Herrig at UFC Fight Night 104, but with a few adjustments to compete at the top level, Alexa Grasso will still be an up-and-comer to watch in 2017. Number 4. Francis Ngannou. Since he debuted in the UFC in late 2015, the MMA world has taken notice of Francis Ngannou. In all of his professional victories, Ngannou has finished his opponent. Ngannou started his UFC run with a bang late last year. His opponent was Luis Enrique. Ngannou's crushing uppercut sent KLB to dreamland. He followed that performance by completely closing the right eye of Curtis Blades. That resulted in a doctor's stoppage, and Ngannou would go on to win his next 2 fights. Ngannou stunned the fans at Times Union Center with his strength in a fight at UFC Fight Night 102. Hamilton had Ngannou's back against the fence. Ngannou held onto the arm of Hamilton and drove him into the ground for a Kimura. Hamilton was forced to tap. In his last bout with Andrei Arlovsky at UFC on Fox 23, Ngannou took out the former UFC heavyweight champion in just 92 seconds, extending his UFC streak to 5 fights with 5 finishes. His most recent 3 have come in the first round. Even Dana White has called Ngannou the future star of the heavyweight division. Number 3. Mickey Gall. Proof that sounding off can pay off in a big way. After calling out wrestler turned MMA fighter CM Punk, Gall was given a chance to earn a fight with Punk if he was successful in his debut with the organization. At UFC Fight Night 82, Gall answered the challenge and submitted Mike Jackson in just 45 seconds. With just 2 professional fights, Gall found himself on the main card of UFC 203 against the debuting Punk. While Gall was just 2-0, Punk hadn't had an MMA fight in the amateurs or professionally. The Millers Brothers MMA fighter made short work of Punk, submitting him in 2 minutes and 14 seconds. In his post-fight interview with commentator Joe Rogan, Gall called out Sage Northcutt. The fight was booked for UFC on Fox 22. For the first time in his young career, Gall faced some adversity in the second round when he was cut. It didn't matter, however, as Gall dropped Northcutt with a right hand and finished the fight with a rear naked choke. After the fight, Gall has said he plans on dropping down to light. Number 2. Doo Ho Choi. South Korean bruiser Doo Ho Choi made his debut back in 2014. It only lasted 18 seconds as the Korean Superboy stomped Juan Manuel Puig. Choi would go on to knock out Sam Sicilia and Thiago Tavares in his next 2 fights. Both bouts ended in the first round. Choi's last scrap was one MMA fans won't soon forget. The Korean Superboy and Cub Swanson traded leather in what's sure to be a Fight of the Year candidate. Choi had his moments in the fight, tagging his opponent a few times. In the end, it was Swanson who landed more often and connected with the harder shots to help earn him a unanimous decision win. Despite the loss, Choi was praised for his iron chin and heart. There wasn't a moment in the fight where Choi looked like he wanted out. The Busan Team Mad standout is only 25 and has plenty of fights ahead of him. With some polish, it isn't too far-fetched to see the Korean Superboy with championship gold summit. Number 1. Yair Rodriguez. In 2017, we may stop calling Yair Rodriguez a prospect and start acknowledging him as a contender. Pantera has fought 6 times inside the octagon and has emerged victorious in all of these bouts. Rodriguez won the first tough Latin America finale against Leonardo Morales. Rodriguez then earned a Fight of the Night bonus for his wild affair with Charles Rosa at UFC 188 when Pantera took a split decision victory. After beating Dan Hooker by unanimous decision, Rodriguez had his sights set on Andre Fili. The 2 men squared off at UFC 197. Rodriguez delivered a highlight reel flying kick knockout in the second round. The Jackson Winklejohn MMA bruiser nabbed a Performance of the Night bonus. Rodriguez took a split decision victory at UFC Fight Night 92 versus Alex Caceres, and then KO'd BJ Penn at UFC Fight Night 103, where it seemed like the prodigy could do nothing to stop his relentless attack. In 2017, Yair will get his chance to prove that he's a belt contender and will have some tough fights lined up. Well, that's the list. Tell us what you think about our picks in the comments section below. Who would you like to see these fighters go up against next? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to get the best MMA content available. And thanks for watching Top Fights. See you next time.
Trailer park girls go round the outside.